For 6 months, I didn't see sunlight. I didn't breathe fresh air. I didn't feel wind, and I couldn't, even if I wanted to, because once that hatch shuts and you're underwater, you're sealed in a tinned metal can full of 130 people trying not to lose their minds. I was a Royal Navy Marine Engineer submariner, and this is what it's actually like living underwater. Patrols can last up to nearly 7 months straight now. Most people think it's always calm underwater, and most of the time it is, but if the sea above you is rough, the whole submarine can rock with it. I've seen a lad get launched out of the top rack mid-sleep. I was in the gym deadlifting once, and the bar was just rolling left to right on its own. It got that bad, the gym had to be shut down because it wasn't safe to use. Right, so civilians wouldn't wish this upon the worst enemy. So because of water rationing on board, you're only allowed 16 seconds for a shower. So the way I do this was you turn the water on for 8 seconds, get wet, turn it off, soap up, turn it back on, and then you have 8 seconds to rinse it off. And if you do try and take more seconds, people will call you out for it. They call it a Hollywood shower. And people do definitely listen in because I've tried and got called out for it before. So there's this thing called hot bunking. So sometimes there aren't enough beds for the crew, so people share beds. I was sharing my bed with another man for the first few weeks. So when I was working for 6 hours, he'd be sleeping. And then I'd go shake him, he'd get out of bed, I'd climb straight into the hot bed. And then whilst I was sleeping for 6 hours, he'd be working. When he was done, he'd come shake me, I'd climb out of bed, he'd climb straight back in, and the cycle continues. I did not see sunlight for 6 months straight because of the constant artificial light following you around the submarine. There is no day and night. Your circadian rhythm is destroyed and your body's main way of telling the time has been took away. There is no air down there, so it has to be manufactured and it's recycled constantly. Because of this, smell travels through the submarine fast. So if you ever wake up to a resounding smell of curry, you know it's Wednesday. So you pretty much got no privacy on board. You're sharing a room with 8 other people that's not much bigger than a double bed. Your actual bed is pretty much the size of a coffin, with only a thin curtain separating you and everyone else. The water we drink on board is called demon water. It's completely stripped of its minerals and it tastes completely different to water you'd find in the tap or buy from the shop. The inside of the submarine can actually change depending on the water surrounding it. Once you enter colder waters, it'll make you want to layer up, and it can actually rain inside of the submarine as condensation builds up on the pipes, cloths on everything, buckets out, and people constantly checking condensation. So noise, literally, and I'm not joking, never stops on board. Whether you're sleeping, I was personally sleeping next to the washing machine, so I just sleep to them spinning constantly. Or whether you're back in the machinery space having to wear ear duffs because it's that loud. There are places where it's that loud you genuinely have to wear ear protection. But the hardest part isn't the physical aspect of not having space. It's the mental aspect of being down there and knowing you can't leave, and not knowing truly how many days you have left down there. It's not like working a normal job where you clock in 9 to 5, clock out and don't have to worry about it until 9 o'clock the next day. You work 6 hours on, 6 hours off, relentlessly, for up to nearly 7 months straight. There is no breaks, and even when you're in your 6 hours off, you can be woken up for maintenance, whatnot, emergencies. Oh my lord. The amount of times I've been woken up for alarms is outrageous. Because of this routine and the fact that every day feels like Groundhog Day, after a while the days start to blur. I remember doing rounds and checking my watch, and in what felt like a few minutes later, I checked it again and days had gone by. Time doesn't feel real underwater. At the start, everyone will tell you this, it goes really fast, like a blur. And then by the end of the patrol, days drag and it starts to feel like years. I'm not gonna lie, that 6 months underwater that I done, it felt like years. Around the mid-patrol mark, for me it was about day 80. The fact that you can't leave starts to own more and more space in your head. And additional factors like patrol extensions, food rationing kicking in, and the fact that you can't speak to your family, it makes you start to lose all hope of return. And at one point, I genuinely thought I was in purgatory. Now, you've got to bear in mind, I was only 18 years old at the time, combating, spending 6 months of my life underwater. And it does get very rough mentally. After a while, you start to get inside your own head. I remember on Christmas Day, I was just lying in my coffin of a bunk, just crying, praying that it would end, because I just couldn't see that light at the end of the tunnel. But after what feels like years, it does eventually come. It does. Seeing sunlight, feeling wind, looking at rain, hugging your family for the first time in 6 months is a day that I wish everyone to be able to feel. It's something that is beyond words. You cannot explain how it feels spending 6 months underwater on a nuclear submarine without sunlight, without wind, without rain, and then coming back to that sensory overload of standing on top of the submarine, looking and seeing every ripple in the ocean, feeling every ray of sunlight on your skin. It doesn't compare to anything I've ever experienced, and it is certainly the best day of my life. But the strangest part is when you actually get home, silence feels extremely loud and your body clock is destroyed. And what used to be so normal to you doesn't feel normal anymore. You forget how to live normal life.